Hey mathematicians, it's Miss Johnson, and today we are going to be working on some word problems that have scales in it. Don't you love the title? The way that I made the word scaling like be big and little at the same time. Just like a scale, comparing something big and something little. Oh, that was cute. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with number one. All right, it says the scale on a certain map of Texas indicates that 1/4 inch represents 20 miles. If the actual distance between Waco and, I'm not sure how to say that word, is 200 miles, a ruler places the map between the 2 points would indicate what number of inches. Okay, so what are we comparing? We need to set up our word ratio. We're comparing inches and miles. So you always set up your word ratio first so that you can make sure your numbers are in the right place. Okay, so 1/4 inch compares to 20 miles, and then the 200 miles goes at the bottom with the miles. Now we can cross multiply or use scale factor. I'm going to go ahead and use the scale factor because I know that 20 times 10 is going to give me 200. And whatever I multiply the denominator by, I have to multiply the numerator by. So x is going to equal 1/4 times 10. All right, so I'm going to go to the side. 1/4 times 10 over 1. I look to see if I can simplify, and I can. I can divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Multiply straight across. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. So 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So it would be 2.5 inches on the ruler. So all you do in a word problem is you find out what you're comparing, you write it down, you fill in the numbers, and then solve your proportion. All right, number 2. Scale on the map of an amusement park indicates that 10 centimeters represents a half a kilometer. If the actual distance between the ticket booth and the log ride is 8/10 kilometers, how many centimeters is between them on the map? Okay, so the comparison is centimeters to kilometers or kilometers, and it's 10 centimeters is a half a kilometer, and then there's 8/10 kilometers. Okay, well, I don't know the scale factor of what times 0.5 gives me 8/10, so I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. Remember, you cross multiply, you multiply the diagonals, right? Multiply the diagonals. Okay, so I'm going to say 0.5 times x equals 10 times 8/10. And 10 times 8/10 I know is 8, but just in case, just a reminder, move your decimal. Okay, so half x equals 8. What's the opposite of multiplying by 5/10? It is to divide by 5/10. Numerator in, denominator out. You do your neato. So 8 divided by 5/10. You have to move your decimal over. Move the decimal over. 5 goes into 8 once. And 5 goes into 36 times. So it will be 16 centimeters on the map. Okay, so they want us to grid this. So it's 16 holes. So remember, your decimal is at the end. You got to make sure you put it in the right place value, right? That's 1 10 and 6 ones. If you want to put the zeros behind, you can, but you do not have to. All right, number 3. A scaled down model of a skeleton key is shown beside the ruler below. So you might be asked to measure on a scale question, like on your STAR test. So you would have to get your ruler that's on your reference chart and measure. Okay, so I couldn't figure out how to do this and record it, so I wanted to just show you this example. Okay, so you might have to measure. If you have to measure, it will say use the ruler on your reference chart. If it does not say use the ruler, then you don't measure. Okay, all right, so let's use this ruler and measure this key. Okay, so not sure what the scale is on this key, so I'm going to count. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means that the ruler's in eighths. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that measures 5/8. So that's 5/8 inches. All right. So the rest of the question says if every 1/8 inch of the scaled down model represents a 1/5 inch of the actual key, what is the length of the actual key? Now, we had on our other examples, we compared centimeters to kilometers, and then on the top one we did was inches to miles. Well, this one, we can't do inches to inches, because if we do inches to inches, well, I don't know what inch goes with which. Okay, so we're going to use, instead of inch to inch, we're going to use the model to the actual, so that we can know what number's talking about what. Okay? All right, so 1/8 inch on the model, so 1/8 on the model represents 1 1/5 inches, 1 1/5 inches on the actual key. So this would be 1 1/5 inches on the actual key. Now, what does this key up here represent? Well, it's the scaled down model, right? It's the model. So this 5/8 will go at the top. And we don't know how big the actual key is. What is the length of the actual key? That's our unknown, our variable. All right, so 1/8 times what will give us 5/8? Do you know? 1/8 5 times, right? 1/8 5 times will give us that. So whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So 1/8 times 5. And look, just to prove it to you, I'm going to come over here. 1/8 times 5, right? 1 times 5 is 5. 8 times 1 is 8, right? So 1/8 times 5 will give us 5/8. Whatever we do to the numerator, we have to do to the denominator. So our answer is going to be 1 1/5 times 5, right? So, we have to multiply fractions, right? So we need to make this improper. So a lot of kids say we're going to do Texas, right? So we're going to say 5 times 1 is 5 plus 1 is 6. So 6/5 times, we're going to put 5/1. Can we simplify? It's my favorite kind of simplifying right here. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. That makes it so easy. So 6 times 1 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. So the actual key will be 6 inches long. Cool. All right. Number 4. Now, number 4, we are going to have to look at the picture. I have to look at the picture. It says, Robert has a model car. What is the length of the real car in inches? All right. So right here, it tells us how many inches the model car is. And then right here gives us the scale factor, the ratio of what the relationship between the real car and the model car. So which one do you think is the model car, the 1 or the 18? Well, yeah, the 1, because the car is smaller. And then the 18 is the real car. So 1 inch is 18 inches in real life. Okay, so again, we can't use inches to inches, so we're going to use model. That's really messy. Let me rewrite that. So we're going to use model to actual, or to real. We'll say real. The model to the real. So 1 on the model is 18 inches on the real. And then 9.5 inches is the car, is the model, not the real car. And then the X. So cross multiply or use scale factor. 1 times 9.5 will give us 9.5, and 18 times 9.5. Either way, you're going to do 18 times 9.5, and that'll give us the answer. All right, so go ahead and multiply that real quick. I bet I can beat you. How fast are you at multiplying? Don't forget to move your decimal. Okay, so if we did that right, it would be 171 inches. 171 inches. I want to get a ruler or measure 171 inches to see how long that car would be. It seems short. Okay, so our next question is a blueprint. And I would like for you to pause the video, and I want you to try it by yourself first. Try it by yourself first, and then check it. Then unpause it and check it. All right, so here's the scale, right? And then the blueprint is 2.5 inches, and we want to know how many feet long. So we're comparing inches to feet, and we have 1/4 inch compared to 1 foot equals, the blueprint is 2.5 inches, so the 2.5 goes at the top with the inches, and that's X feet. So I have fractions and decimals. So there's two things. We could either take the 2.5 and make it 2.5. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this to 2.5. We don't practice enough with our fractions. Okay, so I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to say 1/4 X equals 2.5. 2.5 times 1 is just 2.5. Okay, so what's the opposite of multiplying by 1/4? The opposite is to divide by 1/4. Now over here, I'm not going to write divide that way because I know if I'm dividing fractions, it needs to look like that. Right, so I'm going to bring it up here so it's out of the way of the work that I'm doing over there. I'm going to do Texas. I'm going to make it improper, so that'll be 5/2 divided by 1/4. And then we're going to keep, change, flip, or we use the mathematical words, we're going to multiply by the that's right, the reciprocal. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal, where we take the flip of the second value. And then I'm asking myself, can I simplify? And I'm going to say, yay, I can simplify. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 1 is 1. So X equals 10 feet. X equals 10 feet. So her apartment's living room will be 10 feet long. All right, I hope you got that right. All right, go ahead, pause the video. I want you to try number 6 by yourself. All right, so you have to use the scale here. It's 1 to 24. All right, so the 1 is the model, and the 24 is the real. So the miniature chair is 1.5 inches tall. So that would be the model. Oh, let's go ahead and write 1 to 24. And it's 1.5 inches, so the 1.5 would go here. And then we don't know how tall the real chair is. So if we cross multiply, we're going to have to multiply 24 times 1.5. Okay, so I'm going to do 24 over 1 times 3 over 2, right? Do Texas, right? Then you ask yourself, can I simplify? And we can, thankfully. 24 divided by 2 is 12, and 2 divided by 2 is 2. So we multiply straight across, so that's 36 over 1. So the real chair is 36 inches tall. So because they didn't give us like 1 inch, 24 inches, when we figure this out, because the 1 1/2 is inches, that means that the value we get for x will also be inches. Okay, if the model was 1.5 feet, then when we figured it out, it would be 36 feet. Okay, if they don't give us what the units are in the scale. All right, our last question has to do with a map, a distance on a map. We can see that from the pictures, right? So it says Marcus' grandmother does not have a smartphone and wanted to figure out how far it was from Dallas to Galveston. The scale on the map is shown and the distance from Dallas to Galveston is shown. About how many miles is it from Dallas to Galveston? Okay, so our scale would be inches to miles. All right, so from this picture, it tells us that 1 inch is approximately 31 miles. So 1 to 31. And then this is saying that that distance shows from Dallas to Galveston. All right. So it tells us right there that the distance on is that the map, or is this is on the map? So it's 8 3/16 inches. Okay, so if we cross multiply, we have to do 31 times 8 3/16. Now that doesn't look like fun at all, does it? Not a bit. But that doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means the numbers are going to be yucky, and that's okay. So it's 128 plus 3. So it's 131. So it's going to be x equals 31 over 1 times 131 over 16. Can't simplify because 16 times 2 is 32. So close to being able to simplify. Right, so we're going to do 131. I mean, not 131. We're going to do 31 times 6 times 131. So we're going to multiply straight across. So it's going to be 4,061 over 16. So now we're going to have to divide that. Yeah, I bet y'all are glad I'm doing this, huh? And not y'all. I should have just made that 31, 32. Then it'd been a whole lot easier. All right, so 16. 20 can go into 40 twice. So 16 is going to be able to go into 40 twice. And that's going to be 32. Subtract, get 8. Bring down the 1. 20 goes into 80. 20, 40, 60, 84 times. Chances are 16 is going to go into 81 4 times. Let's see, 24. So it'll be 64. So let's just do 5 just to see. Maybe it'll go 5 times. I'm not sure. Oh, yep. It'll go 5 times. I'm putting that over the 5 over the 1. So that'll be 80. Subtract, I get 1. Look at that. 16 goes into 16. 1 time. Who would have thought all those crazy numbers would have come out even? That's kind of cool. Oh, you know why? Miss Johnson, I cannot believe I did this. Look at this, you guys. Have you ever done that? Flipped your numbers around? Okay, so we're going to put a great big X through that because that's wrong, and we'll redo it. Sometimes that happens in math. I cannot believe I did that. You know how I noticed? Because I knew it shouldn't have come out that easy, that as a whole number, because I knew 16 couldn't go into 31. So, and that's why I knew I was wrong, and I went back and double checked. Okay, this is still going to go twice though. So that would be 8, and I bring down my 6 and not the 1, and that is still going to go 5 times because that will still be 80. This is the part where that'll change. 61. Okay, so we did 16 times 4 over here was 64, and that was too big. That's too big, so we'll do 3. So 16 times 3 is 6, 12, 18 is 48. And we're just going to stop because it says about how many miles. So this is about 253 miles. It'd be a little bit more than that, but it's about 253 miles from Dallas to Galveston based on the scale on this map. So that's basically scaling. It's all proportional. You set up your word ratio first, then fill in your numbers and solve your proportion. All right. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and I hope